Why social anxiety peaks at family gatherings. There's a strange irony about family gatherings. You're surrounded by people who share your blood, your history, and the same old stories told 100 times over. These are the faces that saw you grow up, the people who held you when you were a baby, who sat beside you at holiday dinners, and who can recall embarrassing childhood moments at the drop of a hat. In theory, these should be the safest, warmest, most familiar people in your life. Yet for many, the moment they step through that front door, into a room buzzing with chatter, laughter, and the clinking of glasses, an invisible weight presses down on their chest. It starts subtly. The sound of conversations overlapping feels a little too loud. You notice how many eyes glance in your direction, even if only for a second. Your palms grow damp, your heartbeat quickens, and your mind begins to race. Not with excitement, but with a catalog of every possible thing you could say wrong, every awkward smile you might give, every comment that might draw attention you don't want. In a space that should feel safe, you suddenly feel like you've stepped onto a stage without a script. That's the paradox of social anxiety at family events. On the surface, it's supposed to be comforting, a place where you're accepted without judgment. But for some, it feels like a high-stakes performance where every move is silently evaluated. You wonder if your relatives notice the tremor in your voice, if they're mentally tallying your accomplishments against your cousins, or if they're quietly questioning your life choices. Even the smallest interactions, a harmless question about your job, a passing remark about your appearance, can feel like veiled criticisms. Psychologically, this reaction makes sense. Social anxiety isn't just about strangers. It's about perceived judgment. And sometimes, the people who know you best are also the ones whose opinions you value, or fear, the most. Childhood roles can reappear without warning. Maybe you were the shy one, the underachiever, or the troublemaker growing up, and being back in that environment stirs up old patterns of thinking. Even if you've grown, changed, and accomplished more than your younger self ever imagined, stepping into that familiar setting can trigger the part of your brain that still remembers how it felt to be underestimated, teased, or compared. Family gatherings for someone with social anxiety aren't just about catching up over dinner. They're about managing an internal storm while trying to look like you're sailing smoothly. You smile, nod, laugh at the right moments, all while your inner voice is whispering, don't say the wrong thing. Don't make a scene. Don't be noticed too much. But don't be too quiet either. And so, in the midst of the clinking glasses, the laughter, and the smell of home-cooked food, you find yourself navigating a tightrope, balancing between wanting to belong and wanting to disappear. That's the quiet, exhausting truth about these moments. They demand emotional energy most people never realize you're spending. The truth is, social anxiety in family settings often has deeper roots than we realize. Unlike strangers, family members come with a built-in archive of our lives. They've seen us at our most awkward stages, bad haircuts, embarrassing fashion choices, teenage meltdowns, and some have even been there for our biggest mistakes. And sometimes, without intending to, they carry those memories like old photo albums they pull out at the worst possible moments. One seemingly harmless comment about your career, your weight, your love life, or the fact that you don't have one, can feel like someone's brushing dust off an old wound you thought had healed. It's not always malicious. Often it's curiosity disguised in clumsy words, or an attempt at small talk that lands in the most uncomfortable way possible. But for someone already prone to overthinking, these moments don't just sting and pass, they echo. They replay in your mind later that night, then again the next day, and sometimes for weeks, each replay bringing a fresh wave of anxiety. Then there's the invisible but heavy weight of family expectations. At gatherings, you're not just showing up as yourself, you're stepping into a role you've been playing for years. You're the quiet one who people are surprised to hear speak, the successful one who's silently pressured to maintain a flawless image, or the one who hasn't quite figured it out yet, who feels every glance like it's a silent judgment. These roles can feel like costumes you're forced to wear, even when they no longer fit who you are. And here's the tricky part. Family roles are sticky. Even if you've grown, changed, and worked hard on yourself, the people who knew the old you might not fully see the new you. It's like they're watching an old movie on repeat while you're living in a brand new chapter. This mismatch can be exhausting, making you feel as if you have to either prove yourself or retreat to avoid the tension altogether. When authenticity gets boxed in by old labels, anxiety doesn't just creep in, it thrives. You start second-guessing every sentence before you speak, wondering how it might be interpreted. You measure your tone, your expressions, even your body language, just to avoid sparking a comment that might lead to more awkwardness. And all the while, your mind is quietly running a marathon. Overanalyzing, replaying, predicting possible criticisms before they even happen. Family gatherings can become a stage where you're performing a version of yourself that no longer feels real, and deep down, you're wishing you could step out from behind that role and just breathe. Another overlooked factor is the silent but powerful force of comparison. In the age of social media, most of us are already carrying the quiet weight of measuring our lives against carefully curated highlight reels. But in family gatherings, those comparisons hit differently. They're no longer filtered through a screen. They're happening right in front of you, face to face, in real time. You hear about your cousin's big promotion, your sibling's picture-perfect vacation, or your aunt's endless stream of praise for someone else's amazing accomplishments. Everyone smiles, everyone claps, and you might even genuinely feel happy for them. But beneath that smile, a small insistent voice starts whispering, "Am I doing enough? Am I falling behind?" It's not always about envy. It's about worth. Those moments can poke at the most fragile parts of your self-esteem, especially if you're already navigating self-doubt. And for someone with social anxiety, it's like throwing fuel on a fire. The heart races, the chest tightens, and suddenly, it's not just a family gathering anymore. It's a silent competition you never signed up for, and you're not sure how to play the game. Then there's the environment itself. Family gatherings aren't just social events, they're sensory marathons. The room hums with a constant buzz of chatter, plates clinking against each other, music weaving through the background, and the occasional burst of laughter that cuts through the air like a sudden alarm. The smell of food drifts in waves, sweet, savory, and sometimes overwhelming. While the lighting, whether too bright or just a little too dim, casts everything in a slightly unreal glow. Conversations happen in clusters, overlapping so much that it feels impossible to truly focus on a single voice for more than a few seconds. For someone without anxiety, this might feel alive, warm, and full of energy. But for someone with anxiety, it's like stepping into a mental obstacle course where the rules keep changing. Every sound is a potential distraction, every pause in conversation feels heavier than it should, and every quick glance from across the room can be misread as judgment. You're nodding, smiling, maybe even laughing when expected, but inside, you're running constant mental diagnostics. Do I look engaged? Am I talking too much? Am I too quiet? Did that comment sound weird? Was that joke awkward? What's truly exhausting isn't just the presence of people. It's the invisible performance you feel you have to maintain. You become hyper-aware of your tone, your posture, your facial expressions, your eye contact. Micromanaging every detail as though you're on stage in front of an audience that's silently scoring your performance. Even when no one is actually judging you, your anxious brain convinces you they are, magnifying harmless moments into evidence of social failure. And it doesn't happen in one big crash. It builds. Slowly. The noise, the overlapping conversations, the constant self-monitoring, it all piles up like static electricity. Until eventually, you're not drained because of one awkward comment or one tense exchange. You're drained because your brain has been running a full-speed marathon just to keep you presentable for hours. This is why, for many people with anxiety, the discomfort isn't tied to a single person or a single interaction. It's the entire environment. The noise. The movement. The unspoken social rules. It's the pressure of juggling small talk, politeness, and self-consciousness all at once. And the cruel irony? These are supposed to be your people. The ones who love you. Which means when you feel the urge to step outside for fresh air, retreat to a quiet corner, or even leave early, guilt comes rushing in like a second wave of anxiety. You start thinking, why can't I just relax? Why can't I enjoy this like everyone else? And that self-criticism only makes the weight heavier. Breaking this cycle starts with understanding a truth that's easy to forget when you're in the middle of a crowded living room, surrounded by voices and clinking glasses. Social anxiety in family settings is not a flaw, a lack of confidence, or proof that you're bad at being social. It's often the product of years of emotional history, unspoken family dynamics, and the invisible weight of expectation. These people have seen your beginnings, your awkward phases, your mistakes, and your triumphs. That familiarity can feel comforting, but it can also make their opinions feel heavier than anyone else's. Every joke, every glance, every offhand comment can carry echoes of the past, sometimes ones you've tried hard to move on from. And because the bonds are so close, the fear of judgment doesn't just linger, it multiplies. That's why boundaries are not acts of selfishness. They are acts of self-preservation. They protect your mental and emotional well-being the same way walls protect a home. Boundaries can take many shapes. Stepping outside for a breather when the noise becomes a low-grade roar, quietly slipping into the kitchen for a few moments of calm, or even sitting with a family pet as a grounding presence. It might mean deciding before you arrive how long you'll stay, so you leave while you still have energy rather than after you've been drained. Sometimes, it's preparing a few neutral non-committal responses for those inevitable loaded questions. I'm taking it one step at a time, or I'm focusing on what's best for me right now. These short phrases give you a graceful exit from conversations you're not ready to have without feeling like you've let anyone down. Just as vital is practicing self-compassion, especially in the moments when you feel yourself tightening up or overanalyzing every interaction. This is where you gently remind yourself, you are not here to put on a performance. You are not here to meet anyone's invisible checklist of who you should be. You are here because you belong. And belonging is not earned through perfect answers or endless small talk. It's simply the right to exist as you are, in whatever state you arrive in. Family gatherings, when you really think about them, are rarely just one thing. They're a tangle of contradictions: warmth and awkwardness, love and subtle tension, comfort and quiet pressure. For someone with social anxiety, the goal isn't to banish the anxiety entirely. That would be like trying to stop waves from reaching the shore. Instead, the goal is to learn how to ride those waves. This might mean grounding yourself with slow breathing, finding an ally in the room you can check in with, or giving yourself permission to step away without guilt. And here's the part worth remembering. In between the probing questions, the unspoken comparisons, and the occasional misstep in conversation, there are moments of genuine connection. The way your cousins laugh still sounds the same as when you were kids. The warmth of a shared childhood memory no one else outside the family could understand. The quiet comfort of catching someone's eye across the room and knowing they get you without a single word spoken. These are the moments that make the discomfort worth navigating. Because when you give yourself permission to breathe through the awkwardness, you stop fighting the event itself, and you start experiencing it. And that's when family gatherings shift from feeling like emotional obstacle courses to becoming what they were always meant to be: imperfect, human, and occasionally, unexpectedly beautiful.